To introduce myself, my name is Kenny Bay. I'm the one of the mentors for our wonderful robotics team 8728. We are the Bionic Wolves coming from Chicago, Illinois. First thing I want to say is good morning, happy Friday. We welcome you to come in and share our idea about Victor. I'd like to introduce Henry Wells, and he will begin our presentation this morning.
Hi. Hope everybody's having a good morning. So today, we're going to tell you about Victor, and you'll find that more about later in the presentation. And our presentation will consist of the vision, our story, the Kogi Project, which we worked very hard on, Victor, and acknowledgments. Here are some interesting facts. So there's about 285 million people, according to the World Health Organization, who are visually impaired. And according to the CDC, there are about 14 million people, Americans aged 12 and over, who are also visually impaired. Oh, this is a quote that's very inspirational to me. It's by Helen Keller, and it says, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight with no vision." And I think that's one of the most inspirational quotes to this team. So, yeah.
All right, so our kind of vision is to try to create a new culture for kids who can become leaders in science and technology, and that's kind of where we're trying to go and kind of build our team to.
Microphone. Okay. Hi. We are FTC Team 8728, like Mr. Bay said. This is our fourth year participating in FIRST. Our team was founded at Walcott School, a nonprofit independent school in Chicago that is tailored to kids with learning differences. We want to share our story of how we can support robotics in FIRST for the children and the visually impaired. Victor is currently in development stages.
Here is a 2-minute clip about Walcott School.
We come together to create something that really has never existed before. Walcott is a school for teenagers who are bright, talented kids seeking more than an education to get by and get through the high school years, who are willing to take academic risks and personal risks to go beyond their previous comfort zones.
I feel like I'm actually learning things, and it's the feeling of success. It makes me happy.
When I ran for governor, all the consultants came in and said, "You got to stop talking about this dyslexic thing. You cannot talk about that anymore." I was like, well, it's who I am. Like, that's why I got the drive. That's why I got the fight. That's why I want to make a difference.
Many times people in different educational environments define people by what they're not able to do. At Walcott, we look at what our kids can do. It's a strength-based program, strength-based education. And so by using learning differences, we're describing the fact that, yeah, people learn differently and our students learn differently.
When you have the benefit of a great education here and you come out and you go out in the world, you'll find the ways that your mind, with its differences, are actually a benefit.
There's a lot of different ways to access your learning. For instance, we were reading this one book in English, and there's 3 different ways to access it. You could do it online, you could do the actual book, or you could do the graphic novel. And that's really cool because everyone accesses the same information, but just differently.
Here, the leap from completely not knowing if you're going to be able to do well in high school, and then coming here and being like, wow, I really can do well, and I know I'm learning, and I know what I'm learning, and I'm able to articulate it to other people, is an amazing feeling.
Walcott will be an extraordinary tool to the kind of successful path that I'm talking about. But you go get them, and don't give up, and don't ever doubt your ability to succeed.
All right, so we're going to talk about each of our learning differences. Mine is dyslexia, and then I went through a program that was called the Wilson Program. It helps dyslexic kids, helps them learn how to read, and I'm proof that the system works.
I'm Sophia. I'm also dyslexic. I have a bit of a different form of dyslexia, very complicated name, so I won't go into logistics. And it was just really hard to understand and read in school, and I was always kind of back a few levels. And then I came to Walcott, and they really supported me, and through tutoring and just classes, I'm at a lot better of a place.
I also have dyslexia, which made it very difficult for me to read, but I was good at math, but the reading was a big problem for me in the first few grades.
I have ADHD, dyslexia, and dyscalculia. So growing up, it was really difficult for me because I was constantly failing math, and I was put into small reading groups, and I never really understood why until I grew up a little bit. And I actually was never tested until I was in 5th grade. So growing up, I was just confused, and I didn't understand why all this was happening. So I guess knowing that I have these things has really made me the person that I am today, and I don't think I would have been in the place I am if I hadn't been tested. So it's a good thing.
My name is Henry, and I have ADHD and ADD, and I think for me the success attributes really helped me get through, along with Walcott, but the success attributes really helped me get through elementary school, and so.
Hello, my name is Caleb, and I have ADD, and I use my ADD as kind of to try to turn into a strength instead of how people see it as a difference. For example, I'm a very good multitasker because I can focus on about 5 different things at one time, and I learned how to adapt to my difference, and instead of using it to hinder my ability in school and other things, and turn it into something that can strengthen my learning.
I'm Tyler. I have dyslexia. I've never been a really strong reader or writer, but at Wolk, I've really gotten a lot of help to try to strengthen that, and I really enjoy writing. I'm good at math now, and I think it's really helped me.
I'm Victor, and I have ADD, and when I was younger, it was a very big problem, but I think in recent years, it's been more of a benefit, and I've been able to use it to become, a stronger person, a stronger learner.
Hi, my name is Colin, and I have dyslexia and ADD, and in elementary school, I barely could read, but just recently, the past 2 years, I've actually been able to read full chapter books, which is a huge breakthrough, so.
Hi, I'm Drew, and I have CAPD, which is a form of dyslexia, but for hearing. So if you were to say cat, I would hear hat. So different words seem different, and it's always been really challenging for me. And I also have ADHD, which, it makes everything kind of difficult. And when you put those two together, it just makes it difficult to participate in classes, but after a while I just started getting used to it, and it's been good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Toby, and I have dyscalculia as well as APD, which is auditory processing disorder, and basically all throughout school sucked. I was constantly bullied. I was put in special ed. People didn't know why I was failing classes. But until I got to Wolcott, I really like math. So last year at our school, we got a grant from the University of Chicago, as well as the NSF. So basically they wanted to teach us computer science in a way that we could learn well. So they tailored a course for us that uses code.org and BJC, which is Beauty and Joy of Computing, and it works really well because I'm in the AP Computer Science Principles class.
Our robotics team, Walcott School FDC number 8728, was invited to the 2016 First World Championship competition in St. Louis as conference speakers. Our talk was about how students with learning differences can succeed in a robotics competition like FIRST.
We had people move to tears, and people were emailing us and congratulating us. They shared with us, and we shared with them, and everyone was moved to tears.
We are diverse students with dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, among other things, and we overcame our learning challenges by finding our weaknesses were strengths.
And computer science is hard to teach in other schools because of different hoops they need to jump through, because computers can be hard to acquire. There's this new method we came up with.
We want to use this as an alternative education tool to teach students coding without the use of computers. There are many schools across the country that can't afford computers. This is a fun, exciting, hands-on alternative way to interact with computer coding that can be used by organizations such as Code.org, BJC, or Scratch.
We know that Scratch and MIT App Inventor all use color-coded blocks, and that has been increasingly popular for younger kids that can be assembled in various ways.
We even went to lab school to talk about CodeCube and to actually have them learn how to work with it. We used a lesson plan to have the kids use the item itself. We also introduced the CodeCube and Braille for kids and adults, whoever really, who are blind, to learn how to CodeCube.
Please help us and support our project. We want to make robotics fun and engaging for FIRST competition purposes. So, for the Kogi Project uses 3D printed blocks to teach children how to program so that they can have a more hands-on approach, so they can physically build the program and then apply it to the Scratch application, so that they can then see, once they see it in kind of like real life, then they can apply it to the computer and then end up understanding how to drag the blocks by color and by shape.
So we went to University of Chicago Laboratory Schools, which is the school I went to from pre-K through 8th grade. My mom is the lower school principal there, so we asked her if we could teach a lesson to the 3rd graders, and she said yes. So what we did was we had to make a new version of CodeCubed because the 3rd graders at lab are a little bit more advanced with coding than most students in Chicago. So what we did was we did a lesson on factorials, and which is like patterns in nature. And what we did was we had them put together the blocks of code, and then we wanted them to draw what they thought the result was going to be. And they didn't exactly get it right their first try because they hadn't learned about angles yet, so that made it a little bit more difficult. So instead, we decided that we wanted to do this with 4th graders in the future. So that's what we took away from this, and overall it was like a really great experience. And just seeing like the smiles on those kids' faces is just, it lit up our eyes, I guess.
So we took our CodeCubed idea and presented it at Barnes & Noble, and we gave examples to them, and everybody really liked the idea. And
Okay, so Victor is a project that we are currently developing. It stands for Visually Impaired Competition to Optimize Robotics. Basically, it's a competition that would have special accommodations towards people who are blind. Now, that would include the building of the robot, the programming of the robot, and the controlling of the robot, such as using sound sensors and using CodeCubed and Braille, because we are doing this because being visually impaired is like a huge problem if like you want to do robotics, and it's like unfair for like the nearly 300 million people in the world who are visually impaired, because missing out on robotics it's not fair.
So this is our design. It's pretty much just the same thing, code cubed, printed out, but in Braille. It's printed out from scratch, if you've ever heard of that. It's more for like children, to like a guide to code. And it's like a Lego version in Braille. So we went to Lighthouse, which is a world-renowned non-profit service organized in Chicago, and they service the blind. And here's a video about them.
Good evening. I'm Sandy Forsyth, a current board member and former vice chair at the Chicago Lighthouse. Since we were founded in 1906, we have been offering a community of comprehensive care for people who are blind, visually impaired, disabled, and veterans. In the next segment is an interview with the late Dr. Alfred Rosenblum, who has left his indelible mark on our vision rehabilitation program, which is near and dear to myself and my husband, Rick. Thank you for being with us tonight and joining me in support of the Lighthouse. Happy 110th anniversary, Chicago Lighthouse.
Founded in 1906 by a group of prominent Chicago women, some of whom were blind, the Improvement Association for Blind People was a compassionate social service agency. The agency provided housing, training, and job placement for the visually disabled. Through the agency, employees obtained work with top companies like Western Electric, Pillsbury, and Skillcraft. It was also an early adopter for the integrated workplace. Neither race nor gender kept individuals from receiving a helping hand from the agency. In 1920, they hired their first executive director, Edith Swift, the daughter of Chicago Mayor George Bell Swift. Edith Swift served for 29 years and most notably developed the manufacturing arm that would ultimately become the Lighthouse Industries. In the 1940s, war production plants hired over 250 Lighthouse employees for various assemblies. In the 1950s, the Lighthouse took on what was at the time the uncharted field of low vision care. With optometrist Dr. Alfred Rosenblum, they laid the groundwork for the first of its kind low vision clinic. Today, it stands as the oldest low vision clinic in the country.
I always looked forward to seeing patients, and we were achieving a high degree of success. I think that's the important thing. I was able to actually publish several reports on successful outcomes, and the successful outcomes were, to me, the most satisfying aspects of my service there.
In 1955, they broke ground on their permanent home in Chicago's Medical District at Walcott and Roosevelt Roads. The dedication ceremony featured honored guest speaker Helen Keller.
The message was very heartwarming. There were about 400 people there. Gave her a standing ovation, and there were handkerchiefs out. Tears were flowing because it was just a memorable event.
As the 1950s came to a close, the Lighthouse Industries continued to thrive and grow. Employees worked masterfully as parts assemblers for items such as microscopes, tool sets, and hydraulic fittings.
Generally, we're hiring people, and that was not easy. You know, you have to explain to people that know nothing about blindness that a person that's blind or at least visually impaired can still assemble or do whatever the work that was being done if they were given the chance to do that.
So here are some photos of when we took Code Cube for the Blind to Lighthouse. We met with Lee Birkland, who is the Director of Education there, and Thomas Persky, who is the Senior Vice President, and they really enjoyed it, and we're partners with them now.
All right, so everything you've just seen about the Lighthouse, Code Cube, Barnes & Noble, we all condensed that into one notebook, our engineering notebook, which also talked about a robot. And because of that and what we've done in the community, we won the Inspire Award for that. And we also got a call from the White House, from the Chief Technology Officer, Megan Smith, during the Barack Obama administration.
A quote from Helen Keller to help round this out is, walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light. This brings us, what I think she's trying to say here is, it gives a sense of community, and that being together is better than being alone, even if with all the advantages. And we hope that this would inspire you to reach out to the blind community and help them.
Alright, so we're going to be wrapping this up now. So first, let's have some acknowledgments for Wolcott School, families and parents of Wolcott School, Amy Hicks, Dr. Miriam Pike, Kelly Ramos, Linda Jamosi, Marissa Capinos, I can't say stuff, the Chicago Lab School, Lighthouse, Scratch, App Lab, MIT App Inventor, First and Dean Kamen, Barnes & Noble, National Science Foundation, Megan Smith, Barack Obama, and Coca-Cola and 3D Systems. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, good job, guys. So I think we're going to open it up for Q&A. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So maybe we can I'll pass the mic around. If anyone have any questions about the Victor project or anything about our Code Cube project, we can raise it up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions that you want to ask the team?
What stage is the Victor project in right now?
Right now, we are still kind of planning out the logistics. We recently wrote a grant for $40,000 to hopefully, really get this project going. If we don't get the grant, we're going to still try to go through with it, but we're going to have to do it on a smaller scale. And we're probably going to start out doing it, like in our hometown, Chicago. And so, yeah, right now it's still in its very early stages, but hopefully soon we're really going to get it going.
Any other questions? Or any questions about our school or about the team in general? What's your favorite color?
Okay, I think I need clarification on how Victor is different, or is it part? You're saying it's like in the kind of beginning stages, but what you've already done with the cubes and everything, where does that fit into it?
Basically, the Braille Code Cubed, it's like an aspect of the competition, basically to accommodate for the programming, because they obviously can't look at a computer screen to program. So yeah, the Braille Code Cubed is like an aspect of it.
So Victor's gonna be like a computing competition, like they'll have a problem to solve and then they have to try to do that, is that?
Basically, it's going to accommodate for the building of the robot, so it's going to have specially made parts, and the Braille Code Cubes, there's going to be there'd be a coach to help them type the code into the computer, and then yeah, obviously controls that accommodates them.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any questions? Let maybe I'll ask a question to a member from each team. What are your goals? What do you see yourself in the next couple of years, short term and long term? If you can go down, maybe I'd like to kind of get a sense of what do you guys, taking this whole experience, like where do you guys see yourself in the next year and then 5 years from here? Maybe we can go down to each team member. Yeah.
Okay, so where do I see myself in 5 years? Is that the question?
Yeah. Where do you guys see yourself long term?
College, I guess, hopefully.
And how is this experience like going to help you do that? So.
Oh, well, there's college robotics, right? There's FRC, is that right? FRC, yeah. I'll probably do that. That would be cool, because bigger robots. Yeah, I'm not really sure. That's actually kind of a hard question, because I can't see into a crystal ball. Wait, guys.
FRC is actually high school, not college.
Oh my, okay, all right.
There are college robotics type competitions, just not in first.
Okay. So I see myself in 5 years, again, also in college, but, I see myself, actually, I really don't know what I'm going to do, because right now I think I'm just going to live in the moment and enjoy high school all I can, and, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. All I know is college, and I don't know. Yeah.
I think the Wolcott Robotics, because I won't be in that in 5 years, I think it'll probably blossom into something bigger. Maybe it'll have like actual, maybe it'll have a website, maybe we'll be selling it, giving it away to other schools, and yeah.
I think for my remaining high school years, I'm definitely not quitting robotics. I really want to get the Victor project off the ground, at least, give it a try. And in the next 5 years, I honestly have some ideas in terms of college. I'm not exactly sure. Right now I'm thinking of like engineering, business, law. I'm not exactly sure yet.
I'm definitely going to keep doing robotics. I've had such a great experience learning how to build robots and learn how to use different tools and stuff, so I'm definitely staying with the robotics. College is probably everybody else is going to say, but I would like to go into probably a more medical field, probably into genetic research would be something I would really want to look into more.
I also would want to stay with robotics, and in the next 5 years, I probably will be in college studying business and investing, and different topics like that.
So yeah, I'm definitely staying with robotics, and I feel like this experience is going to stay with me, because being national conference speakers at first is a huge privilege. And I think what I know now from this previous years, like Victor said, I want to get this Victor project off the ground, and eventually we want to have a competition for blind people just like First. And I think, if it sounds cliche, but if you put your mind to it, we can do it. And I think in a couple of years, we will have a competition, hopefully, for blind people, because anybody who loves robotics should be able to build and compete in robotics. And I think we should really go along with that. And in 5 years, I will be in college studying engineering at SMU or business at hopefully Georgetown.
So I actually have like a very laid out plan of where I want to go, what I want to do. So I want to go to UCLA to study both applied mathematics and musical theater. I want to see if I can find a team where I can still build robots in college, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the next 5 years, where I'm going to be really depends on a lot of variables, but most likely I'll probably be in college. And I'm also definitely going to stay on this team for the remaining of my high school time.
Well, the goal, like everybody else, to be in college. I'm hoping I can work with blind and deaf people also, because I'm already kind of an active member in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to be in medical school, and in college, of course. But one of the biggest things I took away from this is the fact that keeping things organized and condensed really helped me in order to create the notebook and to keep it organized. And I mean, as I said, we want a reward for it, so I mean, it's really a great accomplishment.
And, oh, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hear all of you say Bill, and I have total confidence in that. But I also know your histories, and I know that for a lot of you growing up with a learning difference was really a struggle. So can you speak to how that has now kind of influenced your movement towards supporting people that have visual impairment?
Well, growing up with any sort of difference at all, like though not being blind, we can never relate to how it is to live in a dark world, but we understand what it is like to be different, and so it gives us a stronger sense of empathy, and I think that'll be really great for helping the blind.
I think one other thing is using that learning difference to your advantage, and I think that's what makes Walcott so great, is they're prepping you. It's a college prep, so they will challenge you to the best of your ability, and they want you to exceed the expectation, and I think that's really helpful. And if I want to, in college, I think I need to, I still need some work to get into college, but I think that using the success attributes is huge for me, and one of those biggest success attributes for me is perseverance and and self-awareness, because you really, those are two things that I really have to be continue if I want to be successful in college, and I look forward to it.
The notebook, I have dyslexia, and the notebook was a lot of writing, so I mean, condensing information and making it more simpler was definitely a tool I used. So you find ways to work around your difference or disability, and I mean, you make it work.
Okay, a question in the audience. Okay.
So as you guys were kind of talking about not necessarily the Braille part, but just the code cubed and having a physical representation, I was thinking, and I know we have some schools near us that I've worked with a lot of kids with communication disorders, not necessarily younger kids, but people who I think that would be really helpful to be able to see and hold and visualize the code. And it would help them, I think, learn and ask questions. So have you thought about it all, kind of releasing that part to not necessarily just younger kids, but anyone to help them learn this sort of part of robotics?
We actually have. So we sent out boxes of our code cube to 50 different schools around the country. Or no, 50. Was it 52? Because we sent it to the Providences too. So we sent that out around the world to different schools. That we just looked up schools online and picked one. We didn't really think about why we chose the particular schools, but we just kind of chose them, and we wanted to try to get it out around the country, and we hope around the world too at some point.
One other thing about that is we sent those out with the idea that every kid should be a part of Code Cubed, and I think some of those schools were more of a lower income. We worked with Mr. Bay on helping 3D print the pieces and then taping or gluing those the strips of paper onto the Code Cube. But I think it's important that lower income schools and families can still be a part of the robotics system, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, the school I was speaking about was actually a lower income school we've been working with to take robotics into, so that's a really cool idea. Thank you.
Sorry, quick question. Do you know the name of the school?
I know the district, it's in Dearborn, which is a town near Detroit. It's Westwood. My mom is a speech pathologist there, so she works with like special ed kids and communication kids. So they have a team. It's fairly new, but we've been trying to work with them recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think another thing real quickly, just about that, these kids don't think about it very frequently, but at our school, we do a lot of kinesthetic learning because a lot of our students really benefit from doing things, doing the science. So this is totally normal to them, but they're actually creating it now for other students.
Any other questions? You guys have any questions back there? Okay, question.
So you're referring to a notebook. Is this a notebook that you just use for yourself, or is this something that's part of the project?
It was actually for our competition. We actually had to submit a notebook because we also designed a notebook. It was mostly for ourselves and the organization to keep everything together and keep a record of what we have.
But yeah, like Diego said, we had to design it for the competition, for the robotics competition on a state level. Well, we didn't go to state, but the regional level. And so it requires you to design a notebook. And Diego read it. And also, we keep track of the notebook, so we save that and we keep adding on to it. And yeah, so I think Diego's also a big inspiration. Because he has dyslexia and he wrote this massive notebook, which is really great and won an award. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like our engineering notebook. So it's just like a guide by like that we did it. It's photos also of us actually working on the robot and code cube and other things.
Diego actually did a really good job. He color coded everything also, so it's like everyone had like their own color, and it was really organized. Yeah.
In basic terms, it was basically an instruction manual of how we kind of built the robot step by step and how everybody contributed to that. That's basically what the notebook was, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Maybe I have a question now. So, for Victor, what are the next steps? Like, what are your strategic steps? What are you looking for in terms of support? And then how can, the FIRST community help you guys succeed in your project?
Well, I think the first step is one, to stick with it. Don't give up on it. And two, figure out ways to fundraise. Obviously, we wrote that grant to help improve to help fund the Victor Project. But if that doesn't work, I think we all have to be proactive, which is one of the success attributes, and go fundraise. Go fundraise for this project/competition. And I think if we do enough fundraising and if we work hard at it, we'll eventually get there. So that's one of the steps I think we should take.
Yeah, basically what Henry said. I think, if we don't get the grant, there are other sources we can reach out to for fundraising. It doesn't, as I said, it doesn't have to be on a large scale at first. Most things start out small. So, yeah, right now we just are like trying to get the idea launched off the ground. So.
And one other thing is that it's really important that going into next year, that each member on this team, like we did this year, puts in a lot of effort. Is there, 3 out of 5 days a week or whatever you want to say, and puts in the effort to get this going. Because, you can talk about it and then you can't go through with it. So I think to actually conquer this idea and actually make this competition is going to be, it's going to be really fun, but it's going to be really difficult. And I think we're going to have setbacks and we just have to get through them. So, yeah.
Do we have any other questions? No? All right. Cool.
Yeah, that's good. I guess thank you very much. I think we're ended a little bit earlier, but I hope that's okay with everyone. I think So yeah, I thank you very much for you guys sharing. And if you have any questions, you guys can come up to the front. We actually have samples of the Code Cube blocks that we actually used for the kids at the lab school. So you guys can come up to the front, take a look at the Code Cube blocks. We have lesson plans. So feel free to come and ask individual questions to our team members. But I think that'll be it for this session, right?
Also, if you guys think of any more questions, we can create an email sheet or something like that if you want to continue asking questions that way.
And we have booklets that we can pass out with our contact information. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Paul.